Hi, this is Khadija Khan. I am a journalist and commentator. Today I'm going to discuss the case of Shamima Begum. I know this topic is very sensitive and very complicated. We need to be very careful when we are commenting on this issue. So there are a couple of points that I would like to make. First of all, her appeal to return to the UK has been rejected. And then there was obviously a tsunami of opinions all over the internet on this issue. Those apologists who were just saying, bring her back, she was a child, she was groomed, she was trafficked. That was their view. And then there are some people who were trying to discuss this issue in the light of current circumstances and trying to make sense, I would say. So we have heard a lot. We have seen lots of opinion on this issue. But it's still complicated. It remains complicated, I would say. It remains controversial to say anything on this issue because then you have to go and justifying what you're saying. Most of the people who act as apologists, I would say, they get away, with it. They don't have to justify what they say when they call her victim of sexual abuse and being trafficked, being groomed. They really don't feel like that they are obliged to prove these words when they say that she was a benign member of IS. I think you are obliged morally to back your argument with some solid evidence. But this is a rhetoric that we have been listening to for a long time. Whenever somebody tries to make sense on this issue, we see that the people instantly, try to frame those people as inhuman and you don't have heart. What if she was your daughter? It was you. These kind of rhetoric is all around just to obscure, I would say, the whole matter. They don't really want to reason. They just want you to be quiet. And for that, they want to make you feel guilty because only that is the only way they can silence you. So this is one aspect. But then we see some people who are suffering from savior syndrome. They have jumped in the discussion saying, bring her back. She's our responsibility. Bring her back. But they are trying to associate certain situations with her case. She was a child bride, she was groomed, she was trafficked, she was sexually exploited, she was in forced labor, she was forced into slavery. I mean, these sort of things they would try to use in their defense of Shamima Begum. I see that they are trying to prove her innocence even before she stands a trial. And what does it mean? That means that they don't really want her to face the justice. And this is all to just feed their own ego. I find it very problematic because they think that they are entitled to speak on the behalf of all people from ethnic minority background. They are fighting a fight that is not there. I mean, British ethnic minorities, how many people you would see fighting for the return of Shamima Begum? We don't see people among us who see human heads in the bin and then they don't feel anything. We don't see people among us who would feel comfortable when people are walking around them carrying guns. We don't see people among us in love with IS or IS ideologies. There are some people, I would say some people, who may find these kind of things appealing, but most of us, most of ethnic people from ethnic minorities, they don't really have anything to relate to this case. So for them, it's just an individual case. That's the reason that we don't see a huge reaction coming from any ethnic minority group. But these people who are suffering from savior syndrome, trying to make it look like that we are fighting your fight, don't worry, we are here to save you. But the reality is that there is no fight. Maybe people have concerns over stripping off someone's citizenship. We can express those concerns and we can discuss this issue. For that, we don't have to defend someone who has been accused of horrendous crimes. The question isn't really whether she should come back home, because it's a legal matter that's been argued and that's been discussed in the court. And we can expect that maybe she is allowed to come back to the UK. She's British. She was born here. She was raised here. Then Home Secretary, he claimed that he had some, evidence that she poses a threat to national security. So for that reason, he had to take this decision. That is being challenged now. We live in a democratic country and we should have faith in the process of law. The question is, what are we going to do once she arrives? How are we going to deal with this matter? Because the rhetoric is being built around this case. This is so cringy, I would say. It is a criminal matter. She has been accused of a genocide. This matter is not emotional. How can we just let someone feel like that person is a victim when that person is accused of so many things that we cannot even imagine as human beings? This whole rhetoric doesn't lead this case towards the fair trial, as many people claim now that let her face the British justice system. There is hardly any indication that they are interested in a fair trial. I see that this is leading us to that day when we see a person who has been accused of horrendous crimes against humanity is walking down the streets of England. I'm not looking at this matter as someone who is from ethnic minority background or as some kind of, liking or disliking about that particular individual. I'm looking at this matter in a rational way because it is important. It should be dealt with great care because this radicalization didn't start with the radicalization of Shamima Begum. We need to understand that this has been going on for decades. This has been reported many times in the newspapers, in the media, and to the police. People have been reporting that some people are, at the risk of being radicalized. So this is a vicious cycle that has been going on and on and on, and we need to break it. How are we going to break it? Perhaps this one case can become a very pivotal, I would say, point in the current circumstances. This rhetoric, what if it was your daughter? I mean, this is so nonsensical, really. Nonsensical. You tell me, if a criminal is being tried in the court, would you argue the same way? That what if that person was your son or your father or your mother or your daughter? I mean, that is such childish comments that anyone can make on this kind of issue. We need to understand the question is not whether she should be allowed back home. The question is, what are we going to do when she arrives? Once she's here, how are we going to deal with this case? What precedent is going to be set for our future generations? It's unfortunate that thousands of Yazidi women and girls remain missing because of the IS caliphate. but all reckless efforts remain focused on how to persuade the UK court to restore Shamima Begum's citizenship, even though she had been very much part of that vicious establishment. I would say this is really sad for those people who believe in humanity and who believe in justice, because this is really unfortunate for those victims who are not being heard. You must have realized that we don't get to hear a lot from Yazidi women now, especially after the incident in Canada, when a well-known Yazidi woman, Nadia Murad, she had her event cancelled over the fears of fostering Islamophobia and upsetting Muslim students, though she was, going to talk about IS and how did she survive the brutality of IS. She was going to talk about that, but somehow it was deemed inappropriate and she was cancelled. After that incident, we rarely hear anything about those women and children. And that is heartbreaking, really. What are our priorities? Our priority is Shamima Begum, to bringing Shamima Begum home and make sure that she is proven innocent before facing justice. The whole narrative really is just absurd. Anyways, this is all for now, and I would love to have your comments. Do tell me what you want to say on this issue. As I said earlier, this is not something that should be dealt emotionally. We need to do reasoning, because this is not about one person. This one case is going to set a precedent for the future generation. This is all I want to say, and I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you.